On the right-hand side, I have choices of formats that I can open the Word document in. A student report, a business flyer, an event planner, or just a plain document, which is what we'll cover here. As you know, across the top of your Microsoft Word document, there are tabs that have different features and functionalities across the top. When you click on File, then you have choices down the side. Now again, this is in the version that I'm in, and if you go to Google and type Microsoft Word YouTube and put in the year version you have, 2010, 2013, whichever version you have, you will pull up many different versions, many different choices. So when you're on the Home tab, this is the tab that has the most used features and functionalities. If you type here and you see a red line underneath, you know that you have a misspelled word. If it's a green line, and depending on your version, it could just be that you have wrong context or grammar. So if you want to move your words, then you can copy them with the to copy, or you can use a shortcut. And if you look, as I hover over them, a box pops up and says, now you can click on this to copy, or you can hit the Control button and C, which will also copy it. And for any Mac users, it's Command C. So those are called keyboard shortcuts. And my suggestion, if you would like a list of keyboard shortcuts, is that you Google it and pull up the keyboard shortcuts for the keyboard that you have, because a Windows keyboard shortcut will be different than a Mac keyboard shortcut using Command versus Control. But those are available. You can also cut it right out, as you see. And then you can paste. You have paste choices. You can keep the sourcing format, you can merge the formats, or keep the text only, depending on what you're doing. And typically, it's different in every situation. An important section is right here, is the font. And for APA, you want to make sure you choose the font that is allowed in the APA formatting. You'll also want to choose the font size. These features here allow you to, if you highlight the font you're going to use, or if you know going forward you want it to be bold, you click on it and then it's bold. You can underline it, italicize it, or underline it. So if you want to highlight it, you can highlight it with your cursor and click highlight. If you want a different color, you have choices. So highlight it and click your color. If you want to change the font color, there's where you change the font color. And there's choices. Depending on which part of the body of the document you're working in, you may want the font color to be a little different. You can add bullets. You can change the bullets to numbers. And then you can change the list and the choices that you have down the side. This is important in your APA formatting. It's helpful. You can choose whether it's to the left, to the center, or to the right, and it will justify for you. If you want to have a theme color, you can have that too. You can create a theme color. You know you always have the undo button up here, and the keyboard shortcut for that is Control Z as in zebra or Command Z as in zebra, depending on if you're in a Microsoft Word. The Word document is in the Windows, or if it's in the MacBook. So Command for MacBook, Control for Windows. Across the top you have the Insert, which allows you to insert different Headers, footers, page numbers. Page numbers become very important when you have multiple pages. You can choose where you put the page numbers, at the top, left, middle, or right, the bottom, page margins. You can click on the Design tab and choose different design effects. One of the design effects that I think is important is the watermark design effect, which allows you to mark a document as a draft, and therefore anyone who sees it knows it's not in its final stage. And then you can take the watermark off when you know that your draft is complete. The next tab is the page layout, which will allow you to choose your margins and make sure you set them correctly for your APA formatting. Choose a break in the page so that no matter what, the page is broken there and nothing will bleed down into it. You can choose your indentions and your spacing. In your references, you can add your table of contents. You can insert an endnote or a footnote. Set your style for APA so that it automatically sets the parameters. Another important tab is the Review tab. This is where you'll check your spelling, where it'll say, we don't have any suggestions for this crazy spelling you have here, so you may have to go back to the drawing board. And then when you hit Resume, spelling check is complete. The other tab that I think is important within the Review tab is the tracking mechanism. So if we were in a group project and we were wanting to give each other feedback and you wanted everyone to know who provided what feedback, you'd click on Track Changes and you'd click on the Track Changes button, and then you choose how you want to track your changes. Show all your markups, maybe in balloons out to the side. So then when I start typing and I take something off, it should show up as a balloon off to the side. You see over to the right, it says that Carolyn Massengale deleted those letters. And then if I add letters, you can tell that I added them because they're in red. So if you get your feedback back and you want to accept your changes, then you accept them and all the feedback goes away. But you do not have to accept them. You can reject the changes. So I don't want any of those changes, and reject them. So this is a very brief overview of Microsoft Word. When you pull up a Microsoft PowerPoint template, you will see that the tabs across the top look very similar and their features are very similar. They're not exactly the same. I also suggest that you go to YouTube and Google PowerPoint presentation. I have easily found step-by-step instructions for PowerPoint presentations. As you know, File allows you to open a new one or a recent one. Here's some recent ones that I have had. You can print them from here. You can choose your print setting, and something that's interesting about PowerPoint is that you may not want a full slide on each page. You may want 2 slides or 3 slides. You may want handouts, so that you may want a notes page, so that any notes that you have put in the notes will show up. So different things to look at. Print on both sides, correlated or not correlated, color or black and white, depending on who you're presenting for. The Home tab is very similar to the Microsoft Word. You click on New Slide, the type of slide you want, and it slides it in. You can also get a new slide from the Insert tab. You can insert a table. You can choose how many boxes you want in your table, and there it is. Now that it's there, you can move it around and decide where it goes. You can choose the design of your slide. You can make it green or blue. There's lots of choices. You can choose to a transition from slide to slide where it just cuts in, it fades in, you can push in, you can swipe across from one side or the other, or split. Lots of choices. You can add animations, and things will just appear, or they'll fade, or they'll fly in. You can add animation, or it spins in. You can choose that it starts on a click, or after previous, or with previous. You can choose the duration, or you can choose a delay. Lots of choices. You can click on slideshow and you can, this is where you'll kick off from the beginning or from your current slide. So if you go from the beginning, it goes full screen, and then you can present during presentation mode. And you hit the over arrows or the enter button to go to the next slide. My slides are the same, so you hit the escape button to get out. So if we insert new slides, then we go to slideshow, we start from the beginning, it pulls up the first slide, you hit the arrow button, takes you to the next slide. This slide had animation, and every time you hit the arrow button or the enter, it takes you to the end of the slideshow. And then it takes you back out to this view. The review button is the same. Spell check, translate, showing contents, comments, and view. The outline view gives you a place to add notes. In this slide, I want to cover X. I can see this, but no one else can see this. So those are your notes. Again, this is a very brief overview of Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. These are important because these are the platforms that we will be using quite a bit in Blackboard. When you open a Blackboard course, you will be required to upload your documents to submit them. Be sure that when you save your documents, you save them using the name of your course, the name of the student, file, save as, pick a place to save it in your document, and under the file name, make sure it makes sense. If it's MSN 570 Fassengale, that tells me what the class it is, the student's name, maybe it's the signature, assignment, and save it so that when I upload it into Blackboard, it will be obvious whose it is. This concludes the PowerPoint Microsoft Word presentation for orientation. I encourage you to go to YouTube or Google free resources from the Microsoft Store. They give you step-by-step instructions or detailed use of these products based on the version that you have.